There's a storm rolling in, and it's got a bureaucratic name, UAD 3.6. The old guard, the URAR, the 1073, the 1025, all those familiar forms we've spent decades filling out and fussing over are being retired. Not revised, not updated, retired. What's coming to replace them isn't just new paperwork, it's a whole new language for describing real estate, and you'll need to be fluent sooner than you think. That's why we're bringing a special roadshow to California this July. I'll be teaming up with, once again, a certain sharp mind from the world of real estate tech. Last time we tag-teamed an education session, the crowd stuck around, took notes, and even laughed a little bit. If you want to understand what's changing, why it matters, and how to keep your footing while the ground shifts, you'll want to join us. Stick around after the break for the Appraisal Buzzcast. We're diving deeper into all things UAD with today's guest. Stay with me.
Intercorp, a division of Norman Spencer, has your back. Comprehensive insurance coverage from a team that's always there when you need them. The team at Norman Spencer is ready to roll up our sleeves and dig into your toughest insurance questions. We're committed to appraisers and AMCs. Intercorp's programs are tailored specifically for the appraisal industry. Put our experience to work for you. Please contact Susan Lomeli, Lomeli, at norman-spencer.com to discuss your insurance needs. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast with your host, Hal Humphreys.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Appraisal Buzzcast. We have a really fun episode today. Let me bring in our host, Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jim. How are you?
Well, we are very excited to have Joel Baker back from Cotality, formerly CoreLogic, joining us for this Buzzcast. We just saw him in action in San Antonio. He was showing off the new UAD format for a la mode, and a lot of people told us it was their favorite part of the conference. We're going to talk about a way that you can see it if you missed that. Let me bring in Joel. Hey, Joel.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Hal. Good to see you guys.
Very good to see you, sir.
Been a long time.
Been a long time.
Well, we're going to be talking today about a course that we're offering in the LA area. We're going to include the link for everybody to join if they want to come visit, whether they're in LA or from around the country. But I'll let you guys run away with it, and then we'll include the links for people watching.
Absolutely.
Joel, man, thanks so much for being here. We just saw you out at the ACTS conference in Texas, and you and I are getting ready for a little roadshow event we're going to be doing out in California. Let's talk about this upcoming course partnership we have with Cotality and Appraiser eLearning. Tell me what you love about this idea.
What I personally love about this is that you guys get to do a lot of the stuff that you're really good at, right? Which is the course stuff and making sure that appraisers can get CE credit, and I'm able to offer my courses for CE credit, which I haven't been able to do in quite a while. I did some of it through Columbia Institute while CoreLogic had that for a while, but it lets both of us, each of our entities, really rely on the strengths. And honestly, the biggest deal is being able to say, hey, a la mode technologies is on the road again. We're doing our road show. So I'm glad to have that back.
I love it. Here's the thing that makes me excited about this particular road show that we're putting together. And this is just the first one of several that we're going to be doing. But I will be presenting the UAD, the Appraiser's Guide to the new UAD that was compiled by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. It is the information that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac want appraisers to know about the UAD. It's a very detailed structural look into the universal appraisal data set. But on day 2, the second 7-hour offering is really where the rubber meets the road. It's where Joel talks to appraisers about, how you interface with your software to get the most out of the new UAD. Now, look, Joel, I've heard a lot of people say the software's not ready. Nobody's got all the software elements done yet. They're not finished. What is your thought about getting prepared for the new UAD and why appraisers should stick around for that second day?
Oh man, there's so much to say there. Probably the best way to go about talking about this, Hal, would be to just confront head on one of the misconceptions that I heard while I was at AX, which is that it's going to be so different in the 3.6 than it is right now in the 2.6, which is what the current 2011 UAD we're referring to it as that. That learning how to do something now, like on mobile, for instance, which has been a big push of mine. We can talk about that more in a minute, but learning that now isn't going to apply in 3.6. And that, again, that's the misconception. It really, really does apply. The tools that you learn, even if the fields change, even if a little bit of the scope of the inspection changes and what you do where in the office versus in the field, those kinds of things may change just in the periphery, but the fundamental pieces of how a 2.6 appraisal has been done in total for mobile since 2011, it's just simply not going to change. And I'll give one really small example here, which has to do with photos. Right now, photos go into an addendum, right? You take all the photos go into it. There's no spot for a photo in the 1004 or 2055, right? So they all go into an addendum, and appraisers can pick and choose. And in total for mobile, you place the photo in the photo page, front, rear, street, comp one, comp two. It goes in the actual photo page. In the new URAR, there's a spot for everything, and photos are no exception to this. So your front goes in this spot and this spot. Your car storage goes in this spot. Your rear goes over here. The street goes over here. Your exhibits for the site area go over here, and there's no more addenda at all, just period, right? And so with photos in particular, since you're already doing that in 2.6, right now your standard 1004, 2055, 1073, 1075, whatever you're doing right now, those mechanisms and that workflow absolutely apply to the new 3.6 when you decide to start taking those orders.
Yeah, and the thing that I think is critical, and the part I think some appraisers are going to have a little bit of a hard time with, not necessarily a hard time, it's just a new way of doing things, is the appraiser that's going out with the clipboard and the digital camera and writing their notes on a clipboard and coming back to the office and having someone key it into there for them. That's going to significantly change. And that's why I think this total for mobile scan to sketch class on day 2, which is really UAD preparedness, is so critical.
I absolutely agree. It's not, I have to say this, it's not wrong to use a clipboard, and obviously with a pen and paper and a point and shoot camera, your little Nikon or Sony or whatever that you've got, the DC-40 for those of us that remember those bricks. It's not wrong to use that. It's not in the same way that it's not wrong to use rub-ons for your maps. But the appraisers who are going to continue to use the clipboard, they're going to run into all sorts of things that they just simply don't expect. They're going to not get the data that they need. They're not going to get the photos that they need. And then even when they get back to the office and they've got 60 to 100 photos to sort through, trying to figure out where each one of those goes, they're going to spend another 30 minutes every report just trying to figure out where the photos are going to go.
Yeah.
So it's going to result in a lot of rework, I think. Appraisers are going to have to go back out and get more photos, because that's always fun and not at all embarrassing. Or maybe you forgot to measure the height of the bottom of the front door above grade, right? Which is now something that you have to get for every property. It's gonna result in a lot of rework, and it's gonna result in a lot of having to do a lot of manual push and pull of the data that goes from the clipboard into the final report.
And do you think that's the most important thing appraisers can do to get ready for the new UAD is get comfortable with mobile technology?
I really do. I absolutely do. One of the other things that every appraiser's probably heard at this point is that the form is dynamic, which is a fancy way of saying that there's a bunch of if-then scenarios. So if you know, if this is true, then now you have to get these other 3 data points. Or if you choose this option in the software, well, now a photo is required. Whereas it might not be required, and maybe you didn't take that photo, or maybe you didn't get that data point. And those are all over the place. I know that appraisers have read, some of you anyway, have read that 400-page document for Appendix F1, which is it's a beast, really. You're not going to have to get all those data points for every report. You just aren't. So I see a lot of nail biting and teeth gnashing about just how much more data you're going to have to get. And it's true that you do have to get more data in the field, and you have to specify it in particular ways. It's not everything in there every time. And so, yeah, I think going mobile now and getting ready for that, it will make the first 3.6 report that you do in the field feel a lot easier, because the software will tell you that you haven't gotten what you need to get. It'll just show up, right? You'll check the box and boom, there it is. And this goes for appraisers who don't even use totals, the total software, right? There are other mobile apps that are out there for the other software vendors. And I would really like to save every appraiser in the country the frustration of that first 3.6 appraisal when they have to go back out and get a picture of whatever it is.
What do you think appraisers will struggle with the most with this change?
So I'm going to take a 1,000-foot view on this. I think that in my mind, appraisers can generally be grouped into those that really like the in the field portion, the driving around and the looking at the properties and the taking the photos, right? And then there are those that like the analysis portion. They want to sit down and do the desktop work. And of course, that's a spectrum, right? So some like both, some like more than the other. I think that the skippies are going to get really frustrated. The skippies that like to come in and just check the boxes and pound out the report and spend 7 minutes on the property, they're going to get frustrated because they're going to spend more time on the property. They're going to take more pictures, and they're going to have to enumerate is a good word for this. They're going to enumerate the data points a lot better and a lot more clearly than they have. What used to be something in an addendum, something that you could describe and use canned comments for, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. I mean, the GSEs have been clear. They don't want canned comments. That's not to say you can't use, the same terms and the same stuff, but this idea of having a supplemental addendum where the first page and a half is CYA verbiage, half of which doesn't even apply to this particular assignment, they don't want that, and there's no place for it in the new 3, like literally nowhere to put it in the new 3.6. And so that's going to, I think, be frustrating to a lot of appraisers at first.
I think it's going to be frustrating, but I think at the end of the day, once we all get our heads around, look, Joel, I'd like to tell you a story. I go out to this property just west of Nashville. The homeowner meets me at the property. I've done my exterior inspection. I'm in the garage. I walk into the house. The homeowner is talking to me the entire time. I get photographs of everything that I'm supposed to get, I think. I get home and I do not have a photograph of the half bath right next to the garage when you come into the house. I saw it. I made notes about it. I just didn't snap a photograph of it. That one checklist item that I did not get caused me so much consternation because it's a 45-minute drive back out to the property. I was able to get the realtor to supply me a photograph, had to, say in the report, this was provided by the realtor. I saw it. It is in the same condition, all that kind of stuff. With the new 3.6, I've got a working checklist in my hand in front of me on the screen.
Yes. Yes, if you use the mobile tool properly, ours is called Total for Mobile. If you use it properly, then when you get back in the car, one of your task items is to look and see if there's anything that's flagged that you haven't gotten it, either a data point or a photo or something. And I fully expect sometimes there will be things that are required of the data set that you're not going to get on site, but at least you'll see those in the list, right? You're going to see that you didn't get that bathroom photo.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if I can save myself a 45-minute drive out and a 45-minute drive back to get one photograph, that's well worth learning how to use the technology. Let me ask you this, Joel. In your opinion, how much does this new UAD change an appraiser's workflow?
That's such a great question, because right now, obviously, it's just guesswork at this point. First of all, the most obvious thing is that, like I said earlier, the extension of the time spent on property and the things that used to be verbally put into a comment field now have to be extracted and put into drop downs and checkboxes. Enumeration is again the term there for that. That's going to be a big change for a lot of appraisers, because they used to they have quick lists for everything in whatever field, and those are going to have to be redone. They just are. And so probably the biggest workflow change is having to rebuild quick lists, having to rebuild the comments that you would make in particular fields because the fields are changing. Just wholesale.
Yeah, and the enumerated fields, so this is a term that gets thrown around a lot. The enumerated fields that Fannie Mae has built into the new 3.6, all in the world that means to our listeners is they've got specific things they want you to put into specific fields in the report. I like to think of it in terms of, back when they first brought out the UAD, there was a lot of time spent on, this is the abbreviation we want for this. This is the abbreviation we want for this. This is the abbreviation we want for this. We don't have to memorize the abbreviations anymore. The enumerated fields are drop-down radial, buttons that drop down. Here are the things you can select from. And in most of those cases, there's a button that says other. If you've got to put like design style, if you happen to look at a 100% poured in place, monolithic pour, concrete home, and you don't see brutalist in design style, you might need to put other and type out brutalist.
Right. That's a good point.
I think that's the main difference is where we used to use quick list for things. Those things are already built in. And then the comment fields, I think some appraisers are going to want to have their own comments crafted that they can put in for different things. Will the technology make that easier or harder for them?
Oh, I think it's going to be a heck of a lot easier this time around. When a lot of appraisers built their quick lists. Some of y'all built them back in the DOS days, right? And just been ported over. Man. So yes, and I'm going to say something here because I'm, a technology company, right? Speech to text, y'all. If you're using Windows 11, just say it out loud. There's no need to sit there and have to type it in. So if you have a 3 or 4 sentence comment that you want to save, you can use your voice to do that. And you can do that when you're in the field or when you're sitting at your desktop. Just have a webcam with a microphone on it.
And to drive that point home even more specifically, Joel, I have in Total for Mobile, I have been using the voice to text function in sections of the report where I want to describe something while I'm in the field. I just talk it in right there. There's no write it down on a piece of paper and get home and try to read my dysgraphic handwriting. It's done right there.
So how a lot of appraisers do that, but they're doing it in the actual report in the field in Total for Mobile, not realizing necessarily that they can just tap the little plus sign to create a new quick list using that same speech to text that's built into all of the mobile devices.
Yep. Look, is technology going to be our savior at the end of the day? We'll have to pay attention and find out. Is it going to take over and rule our worlds? We don't know. But here's the thing. We've come a long way from forms and worms. We've come a long way from pencil and graph paper to making really good looking sketches that are dimensionally accurate on site.
Mhm.
There are a number of questions that I get on a fairly regular basis. And Joel, you and I have had this conversation probably 15 times now. You get questions from appraisers that are kind of freaking out about different aspects. I do want to take just a second, and this was not in our script that our show sheet that Jim Morrison shared with us, but I do want to talk about a secret little project that Joel and I are working on. That's going to be short, 5 to 10 minute. We're going to call it a podcast. I don't think that's actually what it ends up being. I think ends up being kind of a mobile mentor for people to go to and find answers to specific questions. But let's talk very briefly about the idea of pain points with Joel and Hal. What are we going to do with that?
Man, I'm so excited. This is going to be so great. It's really what we call in the software industry vertical slices, thin vertical slices, where you get just a little look in a piece. A lot of what I do, if you get my emails every Tuesday for tech tips, it's like a 1 or 2 minute. It's a real thin slice of a particular problem, right? And I want to be able to talk a little bit more about some things. And so, like as an example, we could sit down and have a conversation for 5 minutes about outliers, geospatial outliers, outliers in price or data, and how to find those in charts and graphs, and how to do proper selection in the MLS for thing X, Y, or Z to make the and that's just within the time adjustment frame. I'm really excited about being able to present a real world scenario problem and say this is one way to solve it, and you can say another way to solve it, and give some ideas to everybody.
I'm absolutely tickled with this project. And I will say this to our listeners: if you have questions leading up to the UAD voluntary adoption to full adoption to mandatory adoption, send them in to us. Jim Morrison will provide the contact information. You can actually click on the link below this podcast to send us questions you'd like answered. I'm sure Joel, and we'll provide a contact information for Joel underneath this video as well. If you have questions about the upcoming UAD and what it means for you as an appraiser, send them in and we will work them into pain points with Joel and Hal.
Absolutely. And while I'm here, Hal, and I have some of my customers listening, obviously y'all led off with the fact that CoreLogic has rebranded to Cotality. And by the time this airs, I will have a new email address. So all of you who want to email me, you can still email CoreLogic, but eventually they'll turn that off, I'm sure. It's just my name, Joel Baker at Cotality.com. If you want to email me or update your address book.
Or if you're playing a rousing session of Mortal Kombat. No, wait a minute. That's a different thing.
Cotality.
All right. Well, I tell you what, Joel, let's do this. I want to take a real quick break and hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
ACI introduces ACI Sky Workbench, a cutting-edge cloud-based platform designed to streamline URAR appraisal report generation like never before. With seamless workflow integration, automated data management, and built-in compliance, Workbench empowers appraisers to work smarter, faster, and with greater accuracy. Visit aciweb.com for more info.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host, and I'm joined today by Joel Baker from Cotality.
Indeed.
Joel, thank you so much for being here today. I'm very much excited about the plans we have for this next year in helping appraisers, helping our friends get their heads around this new AD, what it means for them. Pain points with Joel and Hal. I'm really excited about that because I'm envisioning this being kind of a repository of FAQs that people can search and find a quick answer to a problem they're addressing. And then, look, we're going to be in Los Angeles in July with the CoreLogic Appraiser eLearning Roadshow. Going forward, we have more roadshows planned. where I will roll in and teach the UAD course, and Joel will roll in and teach the Scan to Sketch Total for Mobile course. And I think by the time we're done with that 2-day session, if you're an appraiser out there trying to get your head around this 3.6, you will have a real good foundation for moving forward.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about it. This roadshow is, those of you who have had the roadshow in the past, we did like the 3-day mobile appraisal roadshow, 10 plus years ago. This is my portion of it. The second day in this session is the mobile day. It really is focused on using Total for Mobile holistically, and that includes, of course, using Scan to Sketch, which is a measuring utility as part of Total for Mobile. It's not its own thing. It's a feature of Total for Mobile that helps you measure properties. You can do them much more quickly in the field and see it in front of you right now, and make changes to it if you want to, compare it against your property record card, all that kind of stuff. So there's that piece of it. I have to teach you how to use the sketcher. So there's actually hands-on material where we all draw the same 6,000 square foot multi-level property with angles and curves and cutouts and open to belows and fixing things and making sure we're ANSI compliant and all this other kind of stuff. So it's not just focused on Scan to Sketch. It is mobile as a whole, data collection, photos, the whole 9 yards. It's 7 hours of CE. I do teach a lot of this online, and there's some recorded versions as well in bits and pieces. But and of course, some of you have had this in my online webinars for a la mode. But I bring all of that together and teach it holistically from a practical standpoint. And just about every bit of it, even before the new 3.6 comes out, it's just going to apply. Like 98% of it will apply. Absolutely.
We've been talking a lot about, and I've had these images of preppers in my mind for some reason, like hoarding food and bottles of water and all that stuff. But like UAD preparedness, getting really comfortable with the mobile technology is part of UAD preparedness, because Joel, I had an appraiser in a class in February in my hometown of Humboldt, Tennessee, who said, I told him, I said, look, we did the UAD course. It was a bit premature. I said, look, I will come back and spend a day. These are my dad's friends. I'll come back and spend a day with you guys, when it's closer to time, and we'll kind of go through this again. And one of the guys said, well, can I bring my assistant? She keys everything in for me at the office. I want her to get her head around this too. And I said, you can bring anybody you want, but you do this right. A lot of the work she's keying in for you at the office is already going to be done.
That's such a great point. Let me say it another way, if I can. You're talking about workflow changes, and it occurred to me while we were on that break there. I won't say a lot of the work because it doesn't have any of the analysis pieces in Total for Mobile, but a lot of the data entry stuff that appraisers would do after the fact, using the quick list and all the comments and the stuff that goes to the addenda and the overflows and all that kind of stuff. You're actually moving that forward and doing that on site now. So that's going to be a workflow change. Is a lot of that data entry stuff now, because of the enumerations, like we talked about, is pulled forward. So it may be the same amount of work, you're just doing it in a different physical place, maybe?
I think at the end of the day, it ends up being a shorter time frame to do more work. I mean, I think once you get used to, I'm now doing some of this data entry stuff on site, and to my naysayers' credit, I mean, I promise you, the first 10 times you use Total for Mobile or Scan to Sketch, it's going to be frustrating. I get it. It is going to be frustrating, but use it 10 times in the field. Make yourself get comfortable with it. If you do that, you will find that it's faster in the long run. That's what I've found. Just getting my head into, I'm going to do more on site with the app up front, it saves me scads of time in the back end. At the end of the day, the total amount of time I spend ends up being less. So it makes me more efficient.
That's such a great point. So another thing I'll say is, and this goes regardless of which software you use, whether it's mine or Jeff's or anybody else's. You've bought a tool, right? The software is a tool. Learn how to use the tool. Like, actually be intentional about it. Learn how the tool works, and all of that little investment, whether it's 2 minutes a week or 30 minutes a week for 4 months or something, whatever, effort you want to put into it, will pay dividends on the back end. It absolutely will. You got to learn how your tools work.
A friend of mine recommended to me about a month ago a book called Jobs to be Done. And the premise of the book is, nobody buys a drill just because they want a drill. They buy a drill because they have a job to be done. There's a screw somewhere that needs to be put into the wall, right? That's the job to be done. You've invested in a tool. I don't know a single appraiser out there that doesn't use form filling software at this point. That tool will continue to work in a different fashion behind the scenes, but you've got the tool. Use it to its fullest extent. That's what we're talking about, is using that tool to get you to from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Joel, I can't thank you enough for being here today. I will tell you this. Jim Morrison comes at me pretty much every episode with this anonymous appraiser question to try and make me look like an idiot in front of the entire appraisal community. Jim, do you have a question you're going to try and trip us up with today?
I do. And before I get into that, you can reach out to us at comments@appraisalbuzz.com if you have a question for one of our experts. But also on your pain points thing, I think the biggest thing I heard at San Antonio and all over is, well, how do I get my generic boilerplate description template to go into all the new UAD forms? And I think these people are kind of missing the point with that one.
I mean, part of that is, if it's generic boilerplate, then maybe we could skip that.
Generic boilerplate, just really quickly, a generic boilerplate report template with like a page and a half in the addendum, just with CYA verbiage, literally has no place. Not just theoretically, hypothetically, it actually has no place in the new 3.6 schema. There's just nowhere for it to go.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think that might be the biggest part of the learning curve. But let's get into the anonymous appraiser question. It says, we all know that choosing the best comps is an integral part of the appraisal process. I've been certified since late 2023, so I'm not exactly a veteran. However, I feel as if I take too much time finalizing my comps, particularly going from 10 or 12 down to 6 or 7 for the grid. Not only am I trying to find the best comps, I'm trying to avoid the across-the-board adjustments, especially for condition. Any tips, tricks, or methods or advice are welcomed.
I'm going to take a quick stab at that and say, I had a conversation with Danny Wiley last week from Freddie Mac. And Danny Wiley actually said, I'm not going to get the quote spot on, word for word accurate, but the quote was, appraisers are really good at selecting comparables. The algorithms are not as good at selecting comparables. This is one of the things we as appraisers bring to the table, is the ability to say, this property is similar, this property is similar, this one is not, and then to pare them down. To the appraiser's question, number one, congratulations for getting certified. At 2023 to 2025, you're a baby appraiser, and that's okay. We've all been there. But I'm glad you're asking the question, and I would suggest that this is one of the spots where we as appraisers bring real value to the table. So take the time to select them. Now, I'm going to set this up for Joel because I think he can speak to this. The way the new UAD 3.6 works is you've got your comparables that you're actually going to use in the grid, but you also have the ability to include, I considered this one, this one, and this one, and this one, but didn't use them because of X, Y, or Z. I think that might be a place where this appraiser could take the research they've done and paint a fuller picture. Does that make sense to you, Joel?
Oh, absolutely. considered but not used. I forget the actual terms in the new UAD, but yeah, there's an actual spot for, hey, I looked at these, and it could be 2 or 3 of them, it could be 30, I don't know, but it's a way for the appraiser to explain, yeah, I considered these, and the condition wasn't right on this one, or the square footage was too much, or too little, whatever the effective age. This one was not updated. This one was. It's less similar because of thing X, Y, or Z. But on top of that, as opposed to, not as opposed to, but in terms of sort of ranking comparables, I should also mention that the UAD, the 3.6, requires weighting of comparables. There's a spot at the bottom of the grid where you say most, less, or no weight. There's a way for you to put in, I didn't give any weight in my reconciliation. So yeah, there's some new stuff in the new URAR that actually would be, I think, helpful in these scenarios.
Yeah, and I will talk specifically to this appraiser that sent in the question. USPAP does not specify how many sales an appraiser includes in their final analysis of a subject property. There may be a situation where you've got 2 sales that are actually comparable, and USPAP allows for that. Most of our clients would like to see 3 closed sales and sometimes 2 active listings. Those are client requirements. If they require additional research, they become assignment conditions. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is to get rid of the across-the-board adjustments. Sometimes it's just not possible to get rid of the across-the-board adjustments. Sometimes it's not possible. But what I would suggest is, if you go further back in time or broader in your distance to find something that is more physically similar to your subject, that could be one of the answers. At the end of the day, I like to see a lot of information in a report. I'm kind of a hound for information. I've been called a vulture for information because I call people and bug them all the time. I'm not offended at seeing 12 comparables in a report if they're appropriate. I'm also not offended at seeing just 3 comparables in a report if they're absolutely appropriate. But work with your supervisor, work with your clients to kind of dial those things in. And I think you're going to find with the new UAD 3.6, some of these issues are easier to articulate and show than they have been in the past. Joel, have I muddied the waters completely?
Not at all, man. That was great. I'm learning stuff too.
Okay. Jim Morrison, do we have anything else we need to cover today?
We don't. Joel, thank you so much. We're very excited for this session in California, kicking off in California. And this is going to be an opportunity for appraisers who can say when the limited production starts, I am ready to go with the new UAD 3.6. Like, I'm ahead of the curve. I'm ready to go. And that's going to help you get added to other panels, lender and AMC panels. So it's the way to go. So I encourage everyone to join us.
Absolutely. And one final thing for me, if you want to read up a little bit on the UAD and see my tech tips and see the interviews I've done with folks from the GSEs, you can go to alamode.com/UAD.
And we'll put a link to that underneath this video for you to click on and go directly to visit Joel Baker and his brain at Cotality.
Thanks, guys.
Cotality. Joel, thank you so much. Jim, thank you. If we have nothing else for Jim Morrison and Joel Baker, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week.